Hey there, welcome back to another video in our Know Your Numbers series. This is to help local business owners such as yourself have a better understanding of the numbers in your business. Today, what I want to talk about is what do you earn an hour? Because it might not be what you think it is. Let's dive in, shall we? Well, first off, before you started your business, the odds are you probably worked for the man. You worked for either a brick and mortar business or some other company, and maybe you were making somewhere between $10, $15 an hour. It could have been 20, but you had a certain wage that you expected to make. Or maybe you were a specialist, so you were a tradesman and you made $25, $35, $40 an hour, whatever the case may be. But the question becomes, what is it that you make right now as a small business owner? For most of you, you don't have an idea. You might think you do, but do you really? Well, first off, let's look at what you're doing. You're working 50, 60, 70 hours a week. Some of you are working even crazy hours beyond that. And for some of you, you might be working less because you still have that day gig and you're trying to build the business in order for you to be able to make the leap into the new business. And you need to know what it is that you make because it's important for you to be able to make that leap from one pay scale to another. But what exactly are you earning for each of those hours that you are currently working today? Well, the first thing you need to know and understand is that a labor hour is not the same thing as your hourly wage. Just because you get paid $40 for a labor hour doesn't mean that's what you are taking home. Why? Because your labor hours are before you pay any expenses associated with your business. All of the expenses of your business are coming out of those labor hours. So in order for you to have a better understanding of what your average wage is, you really need to know and start with how much did you pay yourself. Now, the best way to get this is by grabbing your profit and loss statement. We've had previous videos on understanding your profit and loss, so we're going to start there because that's where you're going to show what it is you took out of the company. Now, what you took out of the company is going to come out one of two ways. Either you paid yourself as an employee through the wages line of your P&L, in which case you probably issued yourself paychecks on a regular basis, then you would go to this line. For most of you, that's not how you do it. You actually come from this angle, which is the net income. Whatever is left in the business is what you take out of the business, or at least some number pretty close to that. For our example today, we're going to assume that you made $40,000 last year or for the time period that we're going to be doing. You can do this, by the way, by month, or you can do this by year. For our example, we're going to do it by year so you can kind of see what it is and go back to the past and say, okay, what did you earn last year? And then you could use your year-to-date numbers for this year to kind of get an idea of what's going on. So in our example, you paid yourself $40,000. Now, the next thing you have to figure out is you need to know how many hours did you work. Now, let's face it, we all swear we work 100 hours a week, but is it really? Let's break it down and see what the typical person does. For most people, they might work from 7 in the morning to 7 at night, Monday through Friday. That's going to be 12 hours a day times 5 days a week. It's going to get them about 60 hours. They do work on Saturdays because we do tend to work most of our time. So in this particular example, they work from 7 to 4, which is an additional 9 hours that they work. And then every Sunday, they prep for 1 hour for the coming week, or they line things up. Whatever your combination is, just grab some paper and figure out what your numbers are. In this particular case, our business owner works 60 hours plus the 9 plus the 1. They basically work 70 hours a week. By the way, this is the most common. Most people fall between that 65, 70 hours a week. It just feels like we work forever because we really don't take a day off because it seems like we're doing something every single day. But you just need to be honest with yourself. You're not trying to prove you're a badass to me or to anyone else. So just use your actual numbers that you work to get a good number. So the next part you want to look at is we know you work 70 hours a week. How many weeks of the year do you work? For most people, it feels like we work all 52, but for some people, they do take a week off. They may take the holidays off. They might take a vacation with their family. In our particular example, we're going to assume that they have 2 weeks off a year that they kind of close up shop or they work minimal hours. So the full 70 is probably worked 50 hours a week in our particular example. So if they work 50 weeks a year, hardcore at that 70 hours a week, by the end of the year, they would have worked 3,500 hours in that year. So what number did you come up with for yourself when you do this exercise? In our case, we're coming up with that 3,500. So this is what we know so far about our business owner. Our business owner works 50 hours or 50 weeks out of the year for 70 hours. They work 3,500 hours a year, and off of their P&L, they paid themselves $40,000. So let's get down to what it is that they paid themselves. Knowing these two pieces of information, we can then take how much they paid themselves for the year, which is the 40,000, and divide it by the number of hours they worked to come up with what their average hourly wage was. And guess what? It was $11.43. So let me ask you, does that number surprise you? Because I'm going to bet for a lot of you that are watching this, you make 40,000, give or take. You might make less, you might work a little bit more, but the average small business owner actually takes home about 50,000. So it's not too far off from this. And depending upon where you are in your business, you actually might be between that 35, 40. So the number is a pretty good, solid number for the majority of you. And the 70 hours we've already talked about is pretty average for most people as well. So most people are surprised to find out that they're only earning really around $11.43. And if we go back to earlier when we were talking about when you work for a brick and mortar or worked for yourself or worked for somebody else in somebody else's business, typically you made a lot more money than that. So this can be a very depressing number for people, but it's very important you know what you're starting at no matter how depressing it is. Because the big question you want to ask yourself is, how do you increase your hourly wage? How do you make more money? Well, in the end, there's basically two ways that you can increase your hourly wage. The first thing is that you can do is you could increase your profits and pay. So basically what you pay yourself at the end of the year. So you need to come up with more profit in your company to be able to pay yourself more. And you can come up with that profit in a lot of different ways, whether it's changing prices, taking on different jobs, changing up your mix. This is what we talk about in all the other videos that have to do with knowing your numbers, because that's going to tell you the best way to do it. But in the end, the only way that you're going to raise that hourly wage is you're going to have to pay yourself more money. The second way that you can do it is if you don't pay yourself more money, you're going to have to figure out how to decrease the number of hours that you currently work today. They're the only two numbers that are part of that equation, is what you pay yourself and the number of hours that you work. So these are the two factors that you have to play with. So let's take a closer look at how that looks when you're playing with those. So in our example, we were $40,000 a year divided by the 35. We got our $11.43. But let's just say we're able to figure out how to be more profitable, and now we get that up to $4,500 or $45,000, and we divide that by the same number of hours. Guess what? We jumped up to $12.85 an hour. Or if we stayed at the same 40, but we increased the number or decreased the number of hours that we worked, let's just say we went from 70 hours down to 65 hours a week, that would drop it down to $32.50, in which case now that hourly wage is $12.30. So in both cases, you'll notice that it is much higher than the $11.43 that we originally started out with. So if we change either of those two factors, we give ourselves an increase. Now, important thing that I want to make sure that you remember is just because you work more hours, it doesn't necessarily mean that you earn more profit. Because if you're earning it at the same rate in the same hourly wage, guess what? You're going to turn around and you're going to make the same amount of money. It doesn't change what you earn an hour. So it's important that you figure out how to make more out of what you already have. Working more hours without changing anything else is just going to keep getting you the same. It might put more money to the bottom line, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're paying yourself anymore because you traded those hours for dollars. Hope that makes sense to you. The key is, how do we get you to work smarter, not harder? Now, the key is knowing your business numbers. That's why we're doing this entire series in the first place. It's important that you understand how these all work together into forming that profitability. Your gross margin, your cost of goods sold, your expenses, your pricing, everything that goes into your numbers at the end of the day goes into your margin. It is the key to maximizing your profits. You have to know your business numbers. Every dollar counts. Because remember, when we got that profit up to $45,000 and working the same number of hours, we were able to go from $11.43 up to that $12.85. 5. And by doing that, we automatically gave ourselves a 12% increase. Go back to your days of working for somebody else. How hard was it for you to get a 12% increase? The average business is giving somebody 3%, 2% increases. In one little thing, you were able to give yourself a 12% increase. This is why you want to work for yourself versus for somebody else. You hold the ability in your own hands to give you the percentage of increase that you want and that you desire by making changes within your business. If you go make all those changes for somebody else, you're not necessarily going to increase 12%, but you have the ability by understanding your numbers and how they work together to give yourself this 12% increase. So don't worry about where that number is starting. I want you to focus on where you're going to take that number by making tweaks in your business and by understanding your business numbers, because you work way too hard not to make more money, but you must work smarter, not harder. I cannot emphasize that enough. It's important that you know that. You must know your business numbers. The business numbers are what are going to help you grow that profitability and what you pay yourself every single hour. This is why it's important that you know what this number is, because it's going to fire you up. It's going to force you to say, hey, if I want to make a change, I need to know and understand my business numbers. All right, now it's your turn. I want you to go out and I want you to figure out what it is that you make an hour. I want you to set some goals as to what you want that to be. So go figure out what you paid yourself and then how many hours you're working and what that number is. And then say, hey, come up with a realistic goal. Don't all of a sudden say, I want to go from $11.50 all the way up to $20 an hour. Now, you can do that, but figure out the numbers, work them backwards, and ask yourself, if I wanted to make that much an hour, what does that look like? You can, by using the numbers and the formula that we talked about, you can easily figure out what it is that your profits need to be at. And if you want to learn more on this, don't forget you can sign up at the knowyournumberscourse.com, where we're putting together a course that's going to help you take a deeper dive into learning and understanding all of your business numbers so that you can start earning more profits right away. And if you want to be notified when any of these new videos come out that help you with your business numbers, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that way they're emailed to you automatically. And don't forget, I do have a podcast called The Local Small Business Coach, where you can take it on your phone and listen while you work, while you drive. And every week we talk about the things that matter most to help you increase your profits, boost your sales, improve your processes, and develop stronger teams. Every Monday we talk about a hot topic that's going to help you grow your business. And then every Thursday we've been trying to dive into more about helping you know your business numbers. But I definitely think that you'll gain a lot by doing that. And finally, I want you to be the badass that I know you are, because to me, every single local small business owner is a badass. You guys bust your butt, and I just want to help you earn even more money.